Okay, this video is dedicated to finding the slope of a line. Okay, so let's first talk about examples. What is slope? Okay, slope is basically a lot of times referred to as rise over run. Okay, and what do we mean by that? Okay, we're talking about vertical displacement, how far it goes up or down, versus how far it goes left and right. So a great example where we see this is called pitch, roof pitch. So let's take a look at an example here. So if I'm looking at a roof, we have the slope of the roof, which is right here. Okay, there's the slope of the roof. And notice, how would I define that slope? It goes up 4 inches and it goes over 12. So we would say that it has a 412 roof slope. Now again, you reduce that in math, but that's a reference. What is a steeper line? Notice this is a steeper roof. So it goes up 8 and then over 12. So the key is we always do the vertical dimension first on top and then the horizontal dimension second. Okay, so here's another example. We see it. We say, okay, we measure up 3 inches and we go over 12 inches. So this would be a 312 slope. Okay, and again, these would be reduced. So mathematically, this is what it looks like. We call this the change in y over the change in x. And the formula for it is you subtract the y values, the y's go on top, and you subtract the x values, and those go on the bottom. So when we see the slope of a line, if we pick 2 points, we take the y values from here to here, subtract them, and the x values, subtract them, and we put them as a ratio. Okay, so slope is change in vertical displacement over change in horizontal displacement. So it's always a fraction. So let's take a look here at the different types of slope. Okay, so we have basically a positive slope. Okay, and that's like it, goes up. Okay, and let's just go through the different types here first. A negative slope, which is going to go down, and we're always going from left to right. Okay, and then we have basically a zero slope, which is a horizontal line, and we have an undefined slope, which is vertical. Okay, that's a pretty bad line there. Let me redraw that so it looks a little cleaner. A vertical slope. Okay. Now, what I like to do is, let's just, for example, find the slope of here. So if I'm going to go, from this point to this point, I would go up a positive value and then over a positive value. Okay. Whereas notice in this example, going from left to right, if I go from here to here, I'm going to go down a negative value and then over a positive value. So the key is I always like to look at do I go up or down, positive or negative, and I always go to the right. And that's a great way for me to find slope because then the positive negative tells me which way I'm going. And I'm always going from left to right. Now zero slope, notice, we have no change in y's, but yes, a change in x. So what's 0 divided by any number? 0. So that's why we get 0 slope. Undefined is we have a change in y value, but do we ever change in x value? We don't move horizontally. You cannot divide by 0, so this can't be done. So I'm going to put can't do. That's what we call undefined. The other example that I like to show is a skier. So imagine like a snow skier. So here we got a guy skiing uphill. Okay, that's positive work to go upslope. Okay, so that's why we know it's positive. If we have a skier who's going, downhill, okay, and he's going downhill, that's going a negative slope because he's going down. Now, how do we know the difference between 0 and undefined? Let's say you're a skier and you're standing on flat ground, okay, and you're in a tuck position, ready to go downhill. How fast you're going? You're going 0 miles per hour. But it's possible you're just standing still, so that's why it's 0. Now, if I ask you to ski down the side of like a building, what's perfectly straight up and down, what's going to happen? You're going to crash and, probably die. Okay, so is it possible to ski down a vertical slope? No, it's impossible, therefore it's undefined. So the reference of a skier is a good way to do that. So again, what's the slope? It's going to be rise over run. Let me put run down here, kind of run out of room. And again, it's the y value minus the x value, okay? So let's take a look at an actual math example here showing what it is, okay? So find a slope of 2 points. I'm going to use the equation, y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, okay? And let me rewrite this top here. The marker got away from me there. So we have y1 minus y2, okay? So when I do this, I'm going to call this point 1 and that point 2, okay? So I'm going to take the y values, 5 and negative 2, subtract them. So it's 5 minus negative 2, and then the x values go on the bottom. So 4 minus 8. Now notice, here becomes a double negative, so here we have 7 over negative 4. So that's my slope. I go up 7 and then to the left 4. Okay. Here's an example here. So again, I'm just going to jump right to it. There's my setup. I'm going to do the y values in red. So negative 3 minus 12, and then I'll do the x values in black. And then notice I do it in order. So if I'm doing this point first, I got to do that point first. So negative 1 minus 5. So here we have negative 15 on top, and then negative 6 in the bottom. The two negatives cancel each other out. I'm going to reduce that, take a 3 out, so that's 5 over 2 as your slope. Okay. So what we have here is we could do on a graph. So I want to go from left to right, and so I'm going to start the leftmost point and go to here. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3. So I went down 3 and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, over 4. So I went down 3 and over 4. So again, that's your vertical and that's your horizontal. So we have a slope of negative 3/4. Okay? All right, so that's really all we have for the slope. Just a quick review, and then you could do some practice and find it. But we want to be able to find it algebraically, and we want to be able to find it on a graph. And we also want to be able to understand the difference between positive, negative, 0, and undefined. Okay? So those are the things we're looking for.